do a couple more examples, but in this case we have a graph that goes on forever, and I wanted to show you what you would do in order to use the rectangle. So first thing we're going to do is we're still going to put the graph in the rectangle. So I'm going to draw the sides, the smallest rectangle that I can, to enclose the graph. Okay, so there's the graph. Now, if we didn't have this arrow here, we could go ahead and just read off the x-axis to get the domain and off the y-axis to get the range. But because we have the arrow, we're going to have to make a slight change. Now for the range, it's still going to be the same. So all we would do is go from a -4 to a -2. So we would go, okay, a -4 bracket to a -2 bracket, or we could say y is greater than or equal to a -4, but less than or equal to a -2. So the range doesn't change. Now, what we need to do though is we can't just say, oh, the domain is a -5 over to 4, because this arrow means that we're going to be going out in the x direction to a positive infinity. So we can't use that. We have to use this. So our domain would be from a -5 with a bracket, and we go out to a positive infinity with a parentheses. Or we could say x is greater than or equal to a -5 if we're doing it in inequality notation. And by the way, this is a function because it passes the vertical line test. All right, now let's look at another example. All right, what we have here is we have an absolute value function. We're going to do the same thing. We start by putting it in a rectangle. Not a very good bottom line. Let's try that. Okay, that's a little better. Let me clean it up a little bit. And then we just draw the sides, draw the top of the rectangle. There we go. Now, normally what we would do is we would read just off the x-axis to get the domain, a -9 to 1, and we would go 5 to 10 for the range. But because these have arrows, we have to make sure we understand what the arrows mean. And what they mean is that this line is gonna go in the positive direction, y direction, up to a positive infinity, and in the x direction, it's gonna go to a negative infinity. This part over here of the graph is going to be going up in the y direction to a positive infinity, and the line is going to go in the x direction to a positive infinity. So that's what we've got to use. We can't use these numbers. We have to use this for the domain and range. So when we look at the domain, it's going to go from a negative infinity to a positive infinity. Or all real numbers is another way to write it. Now, for the range, let's use a different color. We're going to start at 5, and we don't stop at 10. We go up to a positive infinity. So this is going to be 5, close bracket, goes up to a positive infinity. That's how we would calculate the range. We can still use the rectangles, but when we have arrows, we got to make sure we understand what those arrows mean. Okay? That's the only change. Thanks.